Okay, people. So if you weren't able to get tickets to see Mothers of the Revolution today, firstly, people, I should let you know you can see it tomorrow, Friday, the 8th of October. It's at midday, though, right? So it's at 11:50, 10 to 12 at the BFI South Bank in NFT2. So nice screen. Um, yeah, as of doing this, there are tickets, but these things, oh, it can change just like that. So, yeah, if you've got an inkling that you want to go check it out, go go get yourself a ticket ASAP, people. But so this documentary, Mothers of the Revolution, it is from Briar, 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 Briar. I don't know how you pronounce her name, but I'm gonna say Briar March. Okay, so she also co-wrote it with Matthew Metcalfe. Metcalfe produced it along with Layla Menon. Executive produced by Helen Parker, Johnny Fairwiger, and Fraser Brown. We've got Margaret Francis, Simon Coldrick, John Gilbert, and Tim Woodhouse as editors. Phoebe Shum was a researcher. Original music is Lachlan Anderson. Sound design is Bruno Barrett Garnier. DOP, Maria Ines Manchego. And it is all narrated by Glenda Jackson. Okay. So the gist of it all is this. Okay, so in 1981, thousands of women came together to oppose nuclear weapons being stored at an RFA base in Berkshire. It was the start of a series of protests that would last 19 years. That's right, people, 19 years. Mothers of the Revolution recounts the incredible stories of ordinary women who stepped out of their daily lives to take part in a cause whose ramifications were seismic. Some became instrumental in international politics, and others discovered a liberating way of living. I mean, when you say instrumental in international politics, I don't really know. You know, I don't really know how much of that whole situation is true. I do kind of think some people, I mean, look, right? Everyone wants to be part of something. I think there's certain things that people think they may have done, which they didn't, you know? I mean, listen, nuclear weapons are crazy, right? It's crazy. Look, we've all seen, oh, I mean, obviously not firsthand, but we've seen the footage of, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? It's horrendous. Even you saw the meltdown of Chernobyl, right? So what happened there when just a nuclear power station messes up? And there's been a few others that have had accidents over the years, but it's not good. It's not good. So the thing was, when Russia were talking about having the bomb, right? So obviously America were like, okay, if you're gonna have one, we're gonna have one, right? Now, it's I think the interesting thing, one of the interesting things here is, right, in the documentary, it talks about, I forget the term, but there is a term for it. So if you have a weapon, we will have a weapon as well as a deterrent of you having that weapon. And they do talk about it like, oh, this is a stupid idea, right? This is preposterous when it's not. You know what I mean? Like, listen, a it's not a strategy people would be like, yeah, we should do more of this. But it is something that has been used countless of times. And you could say, right? I think it is fair to say, right, that this is something that does actually work, right? Like we know, just even when you look at small scales with gangs, if a gang has machine guns and they think, yeah, we're gonna take out our opposition. If they know the other gang's got them, it's be like, all right, we better, because they could do the same to us. So let's, you have a stalemate, right? It does cause stalemates. It is a thing. It is an actual strategy, right? And as I said, look, yes, obviously it's not the best strategy. You do put things in place, right? Like two people need a key to turn something on, right? There are things that are there to stop because again they talk about it's just like just one person could just press the button and it's not like the president of America. I We don't really know how Russia did things or North Korea are doing things, but we do kind of know that in the States the president can't just walk and press a button and bombs are launched. But it does talk about things like, yeah, that's how it is. Right. And so I do think you could definitely see there was a naivety of understanding with a lot of the people involved with these protests. Hey, one of the big things as well, there's that. So it all went crazy because when Russia were like, "Oh, we're gonna have nuclear weapons too," right? To launch them from the states, it's a bit problematic. So they're like, "Oh, you know what I mean? Let's talk to our allies, right?" And Margaret Thatcher was like, "Hey, we will we'll do you a solid. Yeah, you can have bases in the UK, no problem, right? Yeah. Oh, we'll store your nuclear weapons for you." So, the UK had them, Australia, New Zealand had them. And yeah, so this mother heard about this and she was just like, because I think also when you think about the way some of this stuff was always reported and talked about at the time, it's just even look at cigarette advertising from the 80s. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's great. Well, I mean, if you look at cigarette advertising from the 60s, when they're saying, hey, yeah, we'll help you lose weight. Here's a cool thing. So just advertising and the way they talked about things was insane, right? And so they would say you had 4 minutes of reaction time. As soon as the bombs hit, you have 4 minutes to, you know, try and get to safety, which you ain't getting to safety. And so, there are people thinking, hey, if my kids are in school, that means I'm not going to be able to see them before we die. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So you had this mother, and she was just like, no, this is crazy. It's crazy. And she was with her friends, and they were like, let's let's walk to this place, and we can that walk, because obviously it's going to take some days, right? That's going to build interest, and we could tell people about it at the time. So they were walking to the common, right? Greeners Common to where the RFA base was, and on the way they talk to people and tell them what's happening and what they're doing and all of this. That was the idea. But yeah, so we're talking about, if they launch the bombs from here, obviously that then makes the UK a target. And, you know, don't have the bombs here because then we won't be in trouble. And then, but the whole thing is, right, if America and Russia had launched bombs at each other, everyone was always going to be fucked, right? It didn't matter where the bombs were, right? So, you had people in Europe going, "Oh, look, no, we can't have the bombs here, right? We don't want to be affected." Be like, no, we would. Everyone was affected. The fallout, right? So this is the thing. It's a crazy thing. No one really, these people weren't talking about the fallout, right? And so it's just like, yeah, we don't want the bombs. This is bad. But it's like, no, the fallout from nuclear weapons, that's gonna fuck everyone, right? Because hey, just when was it? Man, I think it was like 2012. Was it 2012? You had the volcanoes go off in I can't even remember where. But basically there was ash in the skies and it fucked up a lot of shit. I think it was Hawaii, right? Or maybe Indonesia. I think it was Indonesia. And yeah, like flights were cancelled for a long ass time and it just fucked up shit. And yeah, that's just minuscule to what would happen with nuclear fallout. Everyone would be fucked. So, I think we just saw the way everyone's talking about it in this that people don't fully understand. And even going in, right? They then talk about an island in Hawaii, which allowed the testing because they didn't know. This is another thing as well because towards the end they talk. A lady from New Zealand comes and she's talking about how nuclear testing from the UK has impacted their community. And yeah, this island near New Zealand, right? They got fucked. Right, so many people then died of radiation poisoning, and it was just horrific, right? And it's just these women of protest didn't know about it, which a little crazy. You're protesting about some stuff, and you haven't really looked into, everything. But hey, you know, I mean, obviously, it's easy to say now. It's easy to say in hindsight when you're not in the situation. So obviously, when these new things happen, there's gonna be fear. So I understand. I get it, and it is interesting the way that this shows everything, right? So they use recreation, actors recreating some of the events and some of the stuff that went down. They use archival footage. There's interviews with different people talking about it all. And it is interesting. It is very interesting. Another real interesting thing is, as well, some of this story was talked about in Rebel Dykes, right? Which was a documentary that came out. My memory is so bad. I can't remember if Rebel Dykes came. I think Rebel Dykes came out last year. I do believe Rebel Dykes came out last year at the London Film Festival. Yes. Yes, I believe it was the 2020 London Film Festival, which does kind of start off with all of this, right? That documentary starts off with these protests and then how the women left and then what they did afterwards, kind of thing, right? Which is, so it's interesting that you get two different kind of viewpoints on a situation, because this one, they want to just talk about, women coming together and everything like that. Now I feel the Rebel Dykes one was a bit more honest about, right, the camps at the common, you know, because they talk about it like, yeah, there was a lot of separation with people, so you had, because they had different camps and they kind of broke them down into different colors, right? And so certain camps were certain, more around certain kind of things, like some some of the camps, a lot of the women, they like getting high, right? Some were more free love, so you had different kind of things like that. They were all protesting, but there's different mindsets and all of this. And there were fights, there were disagreements. That's what Rebel Dykes tells us. This one doesn't really go into any of that. So I did find that interesting. It'd be like, I mean, you know, how much of the truth are you giving us, ladies? But I think it's fascinating because they did actually go to Russia, which is insane. It's insane how they went to Russia and they thought that they were going to be able to, do a lot of things over there. And then, the way they talk about it, they meet up with these, there was a party in Russia who were doing a similar thing, but it's Russia, right? Freedoms in Russia are completely different from the UK. You can talk crazy and you're fine. You say just the slightest thing against your government in Russia and you will disappear, right? Which happened, which they do talk about. So it's, they go to Russia and then it's just like, oh, and this girl, she was arrested the next day. I'd be like, yes, yes, that was going to happen. How the fuck did you not see that? Like, it's just, what were you thinking? You know what I mean? It's just, I'm just surprised that none of them were killed going over there. It is just insane. It's insane. But they tell you about their Russian exploits and just all of that, all the different things that went down. Right? It was, like, they don't really talk about, because they say, they didn't want men involved. There's not really a clear reason for why, you know. It did seem a bit like, what is the expression? You spite your nose and cut off your face. That makes no sense. Obviously, that's not an expression, but I feel you know what I'm talking about, right? It did seem a little like that. But then later on, they did involve men with it to another aspect, right? But they're talking about that. They're talking about how it was non-violent, but then they talk about they're cutting the fence and trying to stop you. Like, I mean, kind of it does get violent, right? Because like in a court of law, there's certain things that you'd be like, well, that's not fine. But yeah, I think technically shit does, right? Technically shit did. But yeah, it is fascinating, right? I will definitely say it's a fascinating documentary that's talking on just all of these events, right? Because it is kind of insane. Now, they do they do believe that they were the ones that got the bombs removed. I don't really think it was as simple as that. Because obviously, no one was really happy about the situation. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that everyone was just like, yeah, this is great. No, the Cold War was a messy thing, and people just trying to find ways out of the situation. So I think as soon as it was like, actually, we can stop this. It was just like, yeah, let's get rid of these bombs. So, obviously, right? I think what they did shone a light on it for a lot of people. There were a lot of people that didn't understand what was going on. Right. So they did do the work for real. There's no taking that away from them. But yeah, some of the stuff they say that they did, I don't really know. I don't really know. You know what I mean? But it's interesting. It is interesting. And yeah, you do get a lot of these women talk about how this impacted their lives. And, you know, I think the takeaways from it, all of that. So it's just over an hour and 40 minutes, right? Just over an hour and 40 minutes, people. And yes, as mentioned, if you weren't able to see it today, right, Thursday, the 7th of October, you can see it on Friday, the 8th of October, but you gotta be free during the day because it is screening at 11:50 a.m. people a.m. at the BFI South Bank at NFT 2. So yeah, if that piques your interest, go cop your ticket now before they sell out, because these things have definitely a way of doing that. All right, so don't miss out, because we don't know. There's no distribution information on this one. And as we've seen with this stuff, sometimes it can take a year, 2 years for this stuff to finally come out. So yeah, people, Mothers of the Revolution. Hmm. Is it for you? Are you down with the revolution? Should it be televised? Well, check it out tomorrow and see.